like you remember the Care Bears?
Yeah.
That they really had it going on. They were like, and they would just like beam out their heart space, or their like Care Bear energy. And that's how I imagine it too. Like when I hug somebody, I literally imagine my heart energy going into their body, right? And people can feel it. We can feel it. We can feel hearts that are closed and we can feel hearts that are open. And it's such a powerful thing. And when our mind is in alignment with that, because our mind puts out the frequency, and like you said, the heart puts out the vibration, the magnetic piece of it, right? So the law of attraction and all of that, people say, oh, that's not true. That doesn't work. It does work. And it is working all the time and always, right? In how we are feeling. So it's just, what are we in alignment with that we want to experience, right? And that's choice. It always comes down to choice. We get to choose our experience.
Namaste, sweet souls. My name is Shilpa, and you are listening to the Omni Mindfulness Podcast. I am a mindset and meditation coach for professional women and mompreneurs. The purpose of this show is to offer stories and content that allows you to increase your awareness of your authentic self and be inspired by connecting to the personal and professional stories of other souls. Souls who are walking the walk and living everyday human experiences with inspired intentions. These are the stories that will expand your consciousness and spark within you to ask, what if? Each season, I offer content to help you create a holistic lifestyle that embodies spirituality, mindfulness, mindset, and energy awareness. Through my conversations with experts in their niche area and solo casts from yours truly, my intention is to help you holistically revitalize, reset, and relax your body, mind, and spirit. I'm your host and founder of Omni Mindfulness. So ask yourself, what if just one story could be the catalyst to shift the trajectory of my life? What if I become instrumental in serving other souls to realize their true self? And what if my soul's higher purpose is in the realization of Omni Mindfulness joy? It's never too late to rewrite your story. And now, today's episode. Welcome back, sweet souls. This is your host, Shilpa. I wanted to share some exciting news about a little challenge I'm running as I'm trying to get more people to discover this podcast and the conversations that inspire those who value personal growth. And the best way to do that is to leave reviews. You can leave a review on Spotify, Google Podcast, or Apple Podcast. So my request to you is to leave a review if you feel that you've received any value at all from these episodes of Omni Mindfulness. It would mean so much to me if you could write a little review regarding any episode that resonated with you. Please take a screenshot of that review and email it to me at omnimindfulness@gmail.com. In return, I will offer you my one-page guide to spark your meditation practice through Sankalpa. Sankalpa is a Sanskrit word for intention setting. Along with this, you'll receive a link to my guided meditation that will guide you through an intention setting meditation, positive affirmations, which you can practice daily. I guarantee that this gift will help you start a daily intention setting practice with a spark. It is my gift for you for being a listener, being a supporter, and of course, to enable you to manifest the best meditation practice. We are now in the season of reflections, which is my 4th podcast season, highlighting spirituality, mindfulness, energy awareness, and mindset. And up next, Stacy Yardley. Stacy is a core energy holistic life coach and transformation catalyst for entrepreneurs, change makers, and visionaries who want to experience more joy, fulfillment, and success both in life and work. She believes that you are a powerful being, and when you fully embrace the truth of who you are, the possibilities of creating the life you want are endless. Through her conscious approach to change combined with her intuitive gifts, Stacy helps others master their personal energy so that they can master their life and thrive. Throughout her working career, Stacy has held a variety of titles, and she draws from a deep well of life experiences to bring forth a unique perspective to everything she teaches. In 2016, Stacy obtained her ICF Accredited Certification through the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, otherwise known as IPEC, where she also became certified as an Energy Leadership Master Practitioner. Currently, she's working on a book project where she details her life-changing experiences as a showgirl for the Ringling brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus at the age of 19. Yes, she actually ran away and joined the circus. Stacy currently resides in the Pacific Northwest, and in her free time, she can be found exploring nearby hiking trails and waterfalls or searching out for the perfect chai latte or kombucha. And now, here's Stacy. So, Stacy, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We've been talking for over close to 2 years now about connecting.
Yeah.
Through our mutual friend, Debbie, had shared so much about how much you and I have in common. And it all started around the topic of movement. So for this month, as I explore the topic of energy awareness, you came to mind. I thought, who better to talk about it? Because there's energy in movement.
Absolutely. There's energy in everything, right?
Exactly.
Everything.
And everything is energy. We are energy. So maybe start with your history of how you got into movement.
Yeah, well, movement itself probably, I would say, has been a part of my life from young childhood, right? I was a dancer as a child. I started around 4 or 5 years old and then went through my whole childhood as a performer and a dancer and in the energy of all of that, right? And really being in my body and all of that. And then through high school, I danced. And actually out of high school, I went and danced professionally. I was hired with the Ringling brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. So I was hired there as a showgirl and performed with them for about a year. And then from there went on, left the show and then came back home to San Diego where I was raised and just kind of went about my life at that point. And it wasn't until really, well, I kind of started teaching dance a little bit at that point here and there and a little bit, and then moved up to the Northwest and then kind of got lost a little bit in my life and what was going on and all the things. And didn't really tap a lot into that part of me, kind of let that part die off a little bit in a way or get dormant. And then it wasn't until I had my daughter, I was a mom at this point and returned back to dance because, of course, my daughter, I wanted to get her into dance. And I actually became a dance teacher again. So returned back to my love of dance. And from there, that kind of evolved, again, through my life of experiences. I was a dance teacher for many, many years. And then Zumba entered my life. And when Zumba came into my life, that was a whole nother awakening process for me, because I just experienced it on a whole nother level as far as, source working through me, as I see it, God working through me and empowering me and letting me be that light of energy for people. And really, I saw manifestations happen. I just saw a whole nother thing, right? So that's when I got kind of more into coaching and started to get around the place of, I wanted to help women get more into what they wanted in their health and wellness. And I saw that the mindset piece was a big one. And so that's what led me into coaching. And so I went to a coaching school called IPEC, which is the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. And their model is based around consciousness and energy consciousness. And so that really resonated with me. And that put me on a whole nother trajectory of understanding energy and our thoughts and emotions and all the things and the 7 levels of energy and consciousness. and all the things. So kind of combines now, into the movement, the mind body piece, and understanding how our mind affects our body and all of that. So it's all kind of come to head in the last few years of really solidifying for me, and in both the positive and negative ways of how our personal energy can affect our well-being, really, or it does. Actually, not that it can, it does. So that's kind of in a nutshell where I came from and where I am now.
And I find it so fascinating that you've had these adventures with something that's your passion. Sounds like from a young age, but having worked in Ringling, right?
Yes, Ringling. Yeah.
That must have been such an adventure.
It really was. It was, I'm currently writing a book about it. I've been saying this, I'm writing a book about it for decades now, but I really am, actively writing the book and telling my story, because it really was a story that impacted my life in many, many ways, which is too much to go into now, but it was really a once in a lifetime opportunity, really, and once in a lifetime experience. And there's just so much to tell about it. But yeah, it was exciting at 18, 19 years old, right? Who says they're going to actually run away and join the circus? I did. I did.
That is awesome. And I look forward to the book. What was your biggest takeaway when it comes to your connection between your dance and your performance, and how it taught you something about energy awareness?
You mean in relationship to the circus?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would say, that's a great question. I've never really been asked that. So I would say probably looking back and knowing what I know now and seeing all the connections, right, is that the energy awareness in our body starts in our mind. And it really does control our ability to move and what's possible within our body, through our bodies and in our bodies, right? Because I was not a gymnast. And so it was a challenge to move my body in that way of climbing a rope and spinning 30 feet up in the air by my ankle and doing all these aerial tricks that I was not trained in, right? I had to overcome a lot of mindset blocks and a lot of fear, and how that fear affected my performance, right? And so it was really moving through those spaces of fear and getting past that fear. So, which has played out again, in my life, just with breast cancer last year. And, fear really can play a huge role in our body and our wellness and all of that, and how it shows up and how we show up, even in movement and dance and everything in life,
Absolutely. And maybe you can share more about your recent health condition and how you worked through it in terms of energy awareness.
Yeah. So that was, for me, the diagnosis that I received almost about a year ago now was really a pivotal point for me in understanding, like, everything I had learned and studied up to that point really came to head in that moment. And it was like, okay, it was as if I had trained my entire, last 5-10 years for that moment, because it was the moment of truth, because I was such a health nut prior to that. I had such awareness around nutrition and the body and all those things, right, in health and well-being. But my mind had gone to some pretty dark places over the last couple of years, right? With the COVID thing happening, I had lost a lot of my jobs and I was going through a lot of life transition and a lot of pain and grief and a lot of different things, as we all did, right? We all were affected by that period. And I felt I was, more so in a lot of ways. So my daughter was moving out, like, it was just a lot of change in that time. And so everything that I had known, I had kind of forgotten, and not practiced what I knew to be true. But I just didn't know that I was practicing in the ways that I didn't want to practice it, right? Yeah. In my thoughts and my fears and anxieties and stress, I really let the stress impact me. And so when the diagnosis came in, it was like, okay, now what? Because here I'm faced with this diagnosis that nobody wants to hear the word cancer, and we often, society looks at it as a death sentence. And I knew in that moment that, like, however I chose to receive that information and apply whatever I knew going forward, and did I want to take responsibility for my thoughts and my emotions and how I perceived the situation, or did I want to just be at the effect of it and kind of be a victim to what was happening, right? And so I chose the prior, and I said, okay, this is what's happening, and it's not happening to me, but happening for me. And how can this be a gift? How can this be, what does this mean for me, right? And so I really took the opportunity to choose how I was perceiving it. And so I think that was the biggest thing, that the biggest takeaway was our perceptions really do matter, right? And I knew that I didn't want to take the fight approach. I knew I didn't want to take the that energy of fight, right? Because, and we hear this a lot in our society, right? Beat breast cancer, fight it, fight it, fight it, fight it. And that carries with it what I call catabolic energy, right? Mm-hmm. It carries with it a resistance, an aggression, a fight or flight, response, which is not conducive to healing. Mm-hmm. So I just practiced self-love. And that's another thing that I had, my journey has unfolded, is loving myself and loving the cancer, loving all of it, mm-hmm. and knowing that it's a part of me, right? It's not separate from me. So it's like, how can I move through this and heal this part of me that's reacting in this way? Mm-hmm. And so I moved through it, and I took an integrated approach, right? So I was really about standing in my power, and I was like, okay, how can I stand in my power here? And what does that look like? Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was investigating, it was doing a lot of research, it was finding the approach that I felt best for mm-hmm. me. And then that's what I did. I really just took the integrated approach, and I did a little bit of allopathic treatments, and I did a lot of naturopathic treatments and energy work, right? Acupuncture, qigong, those kind of things. I knew that my energy mattered, both physically, mentally, and emotionally and spiritually, right? Mm-hmm. All those things. So I really just integrated that approach, and I was able to move through it a lot easier, I think, than others.
And where are you in your journey at this point?
I am healed, whole and complete. I am at the place of healed, and they're monitoring me at this point. Yeah. I'm taking an unconventional approach, right? I'm working with a couple of functional medicine doctors they work in bioenergy, the biofield, and all of that. And so I'm managing my energetic field and working in that way. I'm monitoring, right, through other methods, beyond just mammograms and thermography and those kind of things. So I'm just taking different approaches to the processing, but really, as I understand it, I believe in epigenetics. And I don't know if you're familiar with epigenetics, but if someone in the audience isn't familiar, epigenetics basically says that our health and our well-being is not determined by our genes, but the environment mm-hmm. that trigger the genes. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I hold on to more. So I don't worry about, like, my grandmother had breast cancer. I have 2 cousins that have had breast cancer. Right? I don't worry about the genetic piece of it. It's just monitoring my energy and trusting that I am healed and my body can heal. And I continually repeat thoughts that I am healed and that I'm whole and that my body is strong, and I have a strong immune system. So I just continue to repeat the beliefs that I want to hold, right? Yeah. Because I believe our body follows our beliefs.
I completely agree with that philosophy. I personally have always, from a young age, intuitively understood that my mind is strong. And not just the mind as in the cerebral part. We're talking about maybe like the soul awareness, and how it speaks to the functional part of the body. And recognizing, science may say that genes have an element of play in the design of the life, but that's just one element. And there's so much more, as you and I've had a conversation about the energetic body.
Yeah. And I think that is the future of medicine. At least this is my hope, that we're going to move more in this direction of really understanding the energetic body, and that how that really does affect the physical body, that things show up in the energetic field first, and then go into the physical, right?
Yeah.
And that we can impact our energy. We are impacting our energy every day of every moment, right? But that we have more control than we think we do,
Yeah.
than led to believe, I feel, and that's through energy and through the energy work.
Yes, energy awareness, particularly when it comes to the thinking part, is the challenge. I believe it's a challenge for me. I believe that we have these unconscious blocks and patterns of behavior and attitudes.
Mhm.
While meditation helps with that, also having conscious practice daily of setting an intention and recognizing that the path of your day can be set by the tone from the morning.
100%.
Yeah.
100%, right? And it can be changed, right? So even if we start off in a bad place, or we feel like we get out of bed and it's just already, we step in dog pee, or something
Yeah.
happens like right away, or the coffee pot doesn't work or something, we can shift in a moment, in an instant, and change our energy in an instant. And it is through our thoughts and through our perception, and how, as I say, it's the lens that we're looking through, right? And we can set that intention energetically, like you're saying, with our heart space, and really intending for that, and then trusting and believing that that's true, and that even though we can't see things, that it's there and it's possible, right? And we can shift at any given moment. And I believe we're so powerful, right, as beings, as human beings, that we are just not even touching, like barely scratching the surface of our power. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
absolutely. And within our lifetime, I believe we'll see more of this as a mainstream conversation. I was just telling you about the Energy Summit that's taking place next week. And
Yeah.
I recognize that conversations that I may have had 10 years ago that felt like woohoo esoteric, and now doctors as well as like scientists from different parts of the fields are accepting the fact that we are so much more than we are aware.
Yeah. Yeah. They're starting to piece together science and spirit, right? And the
Yeah,
supernatural. And
yeah,
you're probably familiar with Joe Dispenza.
yes.
He's been very, very intricate in my journey. Bruce Lipton, another one that has proven out, bioepigenetics and all of it. There's just so many beautiful, amazing people that are putting the pieces together for us, right? And really, Lynn McTaggart is another one, right? With the power of intention,
Mhm.
and really proving out on a scientific level, like there is something to this energy thing.
Yeah.
And
Thoughts
we are
create
just,
reality, but they do create reality. And
yeah,
the physical body literally is another form of energy, but that's on a more grosser level. But if we are considering ourselves simply as this, we're limiting what we are truly,
yeah,
right?
I agree. I agree. And I think that if people really were to sit with this understanding and sit with this concept, right, that their thoughts create their emotions, which is true. They've proven this out, right? That our thoughts create our emotions, and our emotions carry an electrical charge. Like they send chemicals through our body, right? Our bodies react in certain ways to thoughts and emotions. And there's energetic ripples that are created as a result of that, right? We can make ourselves sick. We can create tension in our bodies. We can create, that catabolism that our bodies break down. But
Yeah.
the opposite is true too. We can build up our bodies and we can heal our bodies, right? That our minds are powerful enough to make us sick, but they're also powerful enough to make us well. But it's just that I think as humans, we want this, like, see it, taste it, touch it, feel it. If I can't see it, taste it, touch it, feel it, it doesn't exist. And yet we're missing so much as a result, of not trusting and believing that there's so much more we can't see. But if
I
we go by what we feel, right, it's so much more tangible.
exactly. And you were saying see it, feel it, touch it. That's like the instant gratification of the Western world, where that's where we often miss the point and often miss an opportunity to recognize that we can take control. In fact, there are days, like you were saying, maybe the morning starts off wrong. One of the challenges sometimes I have is I'm structured, as I mentioned earlier before we started recording. But if my routine isn't going the way I typically want, and it's already mid-morning and I haven't done my qigong or my meditation, my mind takes over and it's like, well, you didn't do this, you could have done that. And
Yeah.
I have to be like, shh, shh.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it really is. You got to become conscious, right, of what's happening in your mind and just like turn that off. And, what I sometimes do, and maybe you do this too, is I literally go into movement to help my body shift into that place, right? So even though it starts in the mind, we can shift it through our body, right? So it might be like you take a walk or you turn on some music and you dance, right? You just get crazy and you just dance. Like, who cares, what you look like? Or if you're in the store and you're just shift that moment, that movement that can get you moving, can get that energy moving.
Yeah.
And then it's easier. Even breath, if you can't even move your body, you can move your lungs and your diaphragm, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just through that breath work, you can move energy within you. So
I
it really is.
I absolutely agree. I start my meditation in the morning, most mornings. Like I said, if I don't, my brain wants to say, look, you missed it. But it's usually the Qigong or some similar practice, then meditation. When I do that, what happens is that energy, which is in the physical body, is now been grounded. It's become aligned. And so when you then step into meditation, this part is not in control anymore. You're perhaps even more in your heart, which is where you need to be when you want to meditate.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And if you have ever seen in those biofield imagery, right, it shows this, right? I just had this done on me and it shows that the heart space, there's different colors that light up when you're in your heart space. So it is energetically, the energetic body does impact, like you're saying, it can impact the mind and does impact the mind because of that coherence, right? We're looking for that coherence of the mind body, the mind heart coherence. And when it's not coherent, that's when we feel disjointed and we feel out of whack, right? But it's getting in that energetic space, and then you're aligned here. And so it's like when that happens and that coherence and you're connected, right? We're connected to a bigger thing than us, right? That field, and we are the field, right? But that field around us, that is that energetic field that is all connected to one, that we're all, and now we're getting really woo, right? But we're all connected, we're all one, right? In that same consciousness energy.
I recently been researching heart math, and it looks like you're touching upon that topic. Is that it's now known that the heart energy magnetically is so much more stronger, and the extension of it is so much further than one would realize. It's been tested, it's been proven.
Yeah. And that, I mean, it's really like, it's crazy because I often think of the Care Bears, like, you remember the Care Bears?
Yeah.
That they really had it going on. They were like, and they would just like beam out their heart space, or their like Care Bear energy. And that's how I imagine it too. Like when I hug somebody, I literally imagine my heart energy going into their body, right? And people can feel it. We can feel it. We can feel hearts that are closed and we can feel hearts that are open. And it's such a powerful thing. And when our mind is in alignment with that, because our mind puts out the frequency, and like you said, the heart puts out the vibration, the magnetic piece of it, right? So the law of attraction and all of that, people say, oh, that's not true, that doesn't work. It does work, and it is working all the time and always, right? In how we are feeling. So it's just, what are we in alignment with that we want to experience, right? And that's choice. It always comes down to choice. We get to choose our experiences, regardless of what's showing up on the outside. We get to choose, like, how do I want to experience this?
And we do attract the love and the energy of those that are uplifting us. And sometimes I'm surprised, like, well, and I mean this in a good way, like, what did I do to deserve that? Like when my son, who's so immensely sweet to me, and he'll sit on my lap and he'll give me the most heartfelt hug. And I felt like our hearts melt together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the energetic energy is melting. The two energetic.
Yeah. Yes, they've actually done readings where they can see the biofield around somebody. And then I was just watching a video on this the other day that they were filming this mother and her child. And when the child came to the mother, her biofield lit up and expanded more, and their biofield became one. And it was literally just glowing more. And it was simply just the love exchange that was happening, right? So it's so powerful, right? That and Dr. Hawkins has, David Hawkins has written about this, about how our consciousness, our levels of consciousness can raise the vibration around the planet. Like one person raising their consciousness can affect all, hundreds of millions of other people that are lower consciousness, right? Because that heart space is so powerful, that energy is so powerful. And I think that the more that we, move through that, and it sounds so like, oh, let's just be love, it sounds very like woo and like you said, esoteric and like idealistic, but it really is true, that when we move from that heart space, life is just a whole lot different.
It is.
And we're better for it.
And I'm learning more to trust it and be in it. And it takes a while, especially if, like myself, I worked in corporate for so long, and there's a disconnect that occurs because to survive in a certain environment, it becomes more of the fight or flight mentality. And you recognize when you've had challenges, or maybe if you are on your own, very, I would say, tuned in, that heart space, that thing that says, that's my gut or my intuition, that needs to be honored.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you touch on this, because I think that is kind of where we are right now as a culture, is that shift that's happening from that place of the ego and the struggle and the fight, flight, competition, right? We're moving from competition into cooperation and collaboration. And it's those places where the competition still resides. That's all ego, right? That's all like, I have to be right, you're wrong, my way or the highway, like forcing, pushing all of that. And it can feel very incoherent to our truth if we're somebody who is like understanding, like it's about tapping into my intuition and my higher intelligence, and like moving through this into more vulnerability and awareness and courage, like all those things that are kind of more like scary, right? Because they're less defined. And when it's very black and white, egoic, it's very like controllable, like it's right or wrong. But when you have no right or wrong and there's more possibilities, like let's all work together. Where's the win-win here? It's all work in cooperation. That really opens things up to like, there not being such a rigid way of doing things, right? It opens up more possibilities. So I think we're moving in that way, but it can really feel disjointed if you're in that space and you're trying to fit in this box over here of the corporate world, right? Or that competition place,
Yeah, absolutely. And as I transition in building my business as an entrepreneur, there is a lot of vulnerability there. I'm sure you understand.
Yeah. There really is, right? And then I think that the people that have that drive and that desire to step into that and be that light, there's going to be more resistance because they're feeling that judgment, right? They're fearing the judgment, right? Of who do you think you are? Like, you can't do this, or you got to stay in our box, you don't break away, like stay with the herd, and it's a breaking away, and it's a stepping into more of your power. And it's just, again, that mind management piece, right? That consciousness piece of who am I and what am I here to do and who am I being? And when you can connect to, as I say, your higher source, right? Your higher self, then you can go into that flow. But it takes work to get out of that ego place of fear, right? Because there's that fear of like, what are they going to say? What's going to happen? And It's leaning back into the trust, like you're saying, right? Trust the journey.
Yeah, I was just thinking while you were sharing that it's like we have to use the very tools that we are using to help others, but we need to use it for ourselves on a daily basis so we are in alignment, in congruence with the heart space,
Mhm.
because daily you step into vulnerability as a person who is a solopreneur.
Yeah. And it's that like attracts like thing. So back to the energy piece, right? If we are incongruent, we're going to attract incongruent experiences,
Mhm.
right? So it's like, okay, I need to get aligned. I need to stay aligned and trust and all the things that I practice what I preach, so to speak, right? And just believing and trusting that it's going to fall into place and that everything's happening for me and not to me, right? That I am in control of my experience, not the outside things coming in dictate who my experience.
Yes.
So it's really just moving in that space of understanding of your consciousness,
Yes.
where you are thinking, where you're thinking, because that's going to determine where you go emotionally, which is going to determine your energy, which is going to determine your experience, right?
Yeah. The metaphor that came to my mind while you were saying that, being in the area where you were on stage dancing, it's almost like there's a stage light that's following you, and you're that
Mhm.
light. But sometimes we step away from that light and we feel that we're disconnected from our own energy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so to go with that metaphor, right? What do we need to do? We just got to step right back into the light, right? We've got to come back to who we are in our truest nature form. And that is 100% spiritual and 100% human, as I see it, right? We're both and we're not either or, but we have this thing where we think if I'm spiritual, I can't be human. Well, if I'm human, I can't be spiritual. And it's both and, right? So it's stepping back into the truth of who we are and into that light and then allowing it to channel through us and be a part of it, right? And then it all will flow. It's like we get out of the way. We just got to get out of the way and just let it flow through us as a channel. And when we can do that, then things flow in and it's easier, right? That's what they call it, flow and ease and all of that. But when we step in and get controlling and it has to be this way or that way and force and fight it and conflict, and it blocks, it's blocking the flow of the energy. And then we wonder, what's going on? What's wrong? Why won't this work? Get out of the way. That's why. Get out of the way.
Yes, and getting out of the way often is again a daily practice, because old recordings, some of them maybe from our culture, whether it's Indian culture or American, or our upbringing and their patterns, our family patterns, and what their lens of the world often becomes your video, or your videotape, your audio tape, that recording in the back of your head that says, oh, they did this, and then this is your reaction, and this is why you now need to retaliate and get angry. And like, sometimes I listen to my own tape and I'm like, whoa, Shilpa, take it easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it becomes default, right? It's that, what you're basically talking about is the subconscious programming that we all have, right? In those early years of 1 to 7, when we're just a brain sponge and we have no separation in our brain to decipher or make sense of things. We take everything in. We're kind of in a hypnotic state, right? As children, and everything's coming in without a filter. And then it goes underneath the surface. So as you become a parent, maybe it's like you trigger and something, you're like, whoa, where did that come from? Or why am I acting like that? Because it's in there, it's underneath that surface, right? And we can think all the things consciously we want, but that default underneath the surface can really come in and override, right? That's why the intention piece is so key, right? It's what is your true intention and where is it coming from? So, someone listening might be thinking, well, then what? If it's underneath the surface, and how do we deal with that, right? It's subconscious programming. We have to go into that meditative state, right? And that self-hypnosis. You can call it meditation or self-hypnosis or visualization, right? It's understanding what your beliefs are and how you might want to reprogram those beliefs, what you want to believe, right? So it's kind of like, if you get cancer, if you believe I'm going to die, you're going to die. Like, if you don't believe, I'm not saying we're not going to die, we're all going to die, right? But if you can shift that belief of like, cancer is not a death sentence. Cancer is not a death sentence. I can live with cancer. I can survive and I can thrive, right? And move into thriving versus just surviving. Or I am worthy of love. Even though my parents told me I wasn't, I am worthy of love. And I'm worthy. And just reprogramming that I'm worthy, both consciously and then subconsciously through self-hypnosis or meditation. Mm-hmm. That's how we reprogram things, right? But it takes effort. It takes work, so we have to do the work.
Just yesterday, I was speaking with someone who created this lovely deck. I'll send you more information about it. Essentially, they're affirmation cards. What she did was, on one side, there's a picture with the affirmation. On the other is a question. And often we do mantras or affirmations like I do in the morning. Yet sometimes the missing element is, am I really? So let's say I am vitality. Well, what are you doing to increase your vitality?
Exactly. Are you living in that, right? Are you embodying that? Otherwise, it's just words, right? And this is why people say affirmations don't work, because they don't feel it, because the belief underneath the surface is counter to it. So that's one indicator. If somebody's doing an affirmation, like, I'm worthy, and you're like, it doesn't feel real, because you don't believe it to be real. But the more you say it, the more, and you go into what does worthy feel like? Mm-hmm. As you're saying it, what does it feel like, right? Or like you're saying, what are you doing to have vitality? What would it feel like to be vitality, or to be in vitality, right? What does that feel like? It feels energetic. It feels alive, right? And feel that as you say, I am vitality, right? That's going to anchor it in so much deeper into that heart space and into that energetic space than just saying the words.
Exactly.
Over and over.
Because it starts with awareness, like we said, energy awareness. I would like to feel vitality. Then the action is, well, now I'm about to do Qigong. And then I take it one step further each morning. I say, after I've done the Qigong, when I can remember, I'll write down, how am I feeling now in my body? Because the next time I go through the affirmations, I can then recall, well, I felt tingling. I felt my breath at ease. I felt more centered.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's moving in that place of that being, right? So if you wake up and you're like, okay, if I was vitality today, if I was in vitality, how would I move through my day? It wouldn't be hard to do Qigong, because that's part of who I am, right? Mm-hmm. So like for me, I went vegan instantly when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. It was like, there was no transition. It was like, boom, not a problem. People are like, how did you do that? How could you just change everything overnight like that? Because I decided I am a vegan. I am a plant-based eater. That's it. Like, it wasn't hard, because I decided that's who I am. And so every decision I made from that point forward reflected that, right? I don't consume sugar. I don't drink alcohol. I don't consider myself a drinker, right? So it's not hard to say no to alcohol, because that's not who I am, right? So it's like, I'm not a smoker. So why would I be tempted to have a cigarette if I'm not a smoker, right? Mm-hmm. So it's that being that person. I am someone who practices Qigong. So I can just do Qigong, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's just that being that person.
And also being vegan, at least in my spiritual woo-hoo take on it, is that you're living in that energy. Because if you want to bring that energy into your body and live in that vibrational level, you are also introducing it on a more physical level into your body. And also,
yeah.
Yeah,
totally. And for me, I'm working with doctors. And so I have a naturopath that I work with, and has been testing my blood. And I was able to completely shift my biological makeup over the last 6-7 months based on my lifestyle habits. But it does come down to energy, and even in the physical realm, right? So we've been talking more esoteric and spiritual, but it even is in the physical. Like, our bodies are made of energy. It operates on energy. Our ability, cancer is a metabolic disease. how you process your energy metabolically, right? And can your body clean up? Can it get rid of the waste? Can it do what it needs to do energetically? Literally, like calories are energy, right? And so it's just, that's a whole nother show, right? But it's just basically like everything that you consume has a ripple effect through your eyes, through your ears, through your body. Like everything we consume has a ripple effect energetically.
Yeah. What you consume in your mouth, what you listen to. I'm one of those people who's very sensitive to certain vibrational from music. And if it, even words and the tempo can affect people.
100%, right? Because it's frequency. So sound is frequency. And this is why people are affected by music and sound and even light, right? It's all frequency. And so when we understand that we are energy and that we are affected by energy, it makes sense, right? That if you're in a certain vibrational space, you're going to feel certain things based on the frequency. This is why you can hear some music and it feels really good. And you can feel some music and it's just like agitating, right? And like irritating. That's how I am anyway, right? And I can feel it. It's just so penetrating. It's because of the frequency.
Yes. What I've been doing is in the background, I listen to like very mellow Om chanting with the bowl. And when I do that every day, but some days I forget. And then I'll feel like, what's that thing that's missing that brings the energy level to a kind of.
That's how I am with water. So I love water. It's just why I love going to San Diego, right? Because I love going to the beach and just the ocean and the sound of water. So here in the Northwest, I go to waterfalls and I go to the creeks area where the creeks are in the water, but I have a fountain. Actually, I turn it off right now because sometimes you can hear it when I'm on Zoom calls. It's like, what's that sound of the water trickling? It makes me have to go to the bathroom, but I turn it on this fountain every day. And when it's not on, there's a different feeling. And when it's on, it literally is a soothing sound of the rippling water just trickling away, right? And there is energy coming off the water, off the frequency of the water.
I love water also. And next time you're in San Diego, we'll hang out at the water.
Yeah.
I have one of those Himalayan salt lamps on my kitchen counter. Yeah. And the first thing I do when it's almost evening and I'm starting to make dinner is I turn it on. And I know there's some, I guess the verdict's out still on whether or not the Himalayan lamp itself is like energy producing. But I can tell you that the amber color and the soothingness of that color puts me in a very different state when I'm cooking.
Exactly. And here's the thing about that, Shilpa, is that like, even if they were to say like, there's no science that this puts out anything, the point is how it's making you feel, right? And you're bringing in whatever the light is, and I believe there's truth to it, that there is frequency to it, but let's just pretend that they say that there's not. It's how it's making you feel. And so because it's making you feel a certain way, it's shifting your energy, and then your energy goes out and affects your family and the food that you're cooking, right? Like all of it. And it's all related. So whether people want to say, oh, it works or it doesn't work, or it's real or it's not real, how you feel is very real, right? And how we feel is very real. And so if we lean into that and we lean into what feels good, what feels right, what feels aligned, what feels purposeful, right? And easy and joyful and gratitude and those higher vibrational feelings, like things are just going to shift in a different way for us.
Yes. When you mentioned emotions at the beginning of our conversation, it reminded me of an expression one of my meditation teachers used to use, that it's emotions. It's those energetic motions moving through your body. And when you feel, say, anything physically, it first starts with the thought, then a feeling, and then the feeling then translates energetically into something physical in your body. So when you hear someone say, oh, that you put your hand on your heart saying if that feels sad. Well, then that translates into further something energetically in your heart space, the actual physical heart.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Right. Because that's the interplay of the energy.
Yes.
Right. So powerful. I just think it's so beautiful. And if we were operating more in this place, I think as a society, our world would be a lot different.
It would be a lot. We're getting there. One of the other things you mentioned, though, that lamp and how it makes me feel, and if there's a translation and how that energy then goes off to the family. I was raised with the awareness from the Indian culture that even how you engage with the food that you're cooking, you're putting your vibration into it. So if it's done with, say, love and joy, and even you're not taking the stress of your day into when you're making that meal, but you're putting love into it, that translates into how others will consume that energy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so powerful. I don't know if you know the study. I forget the name of the doctor or the scientist that did it, but I think it was a Japanese man that did the study with the rice and his words. He was speaking his words into the jar. And I have friends that have done this where they take rice, they cook it a certain way, really clean, and they put it in the jar. And he was talking to the rice. Like he would say, like, you're bad, you're ugly, I hate you, horrible negative words to one. And then the other one, I love you, you're beautiful, I'm so grateful, like all these other positive words, right? The rice that he spoke to negatively rotted faster and stronger than the rice that didn't. It was absolutely mind-blowing. And you can look it up, rice experiment or something. I forget what it's all about. But the point is that the words have power. And you said that earlier, right? That our words have energy to them and they can impact others. And so the emotion behind the words give them that much more power, right? Yeah. So these are just words he was saying, but then if we promote we give our energy from our heart space into those words, they really do have an impact and a powerful way of rippling out, right, into others. Yeah. And anybody who's the sticks and stones going to break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Totally false. They absolutely can. And especially to ourselves. Right.
Or in our heart center. And words are energy. And the Sanskrit language, the phonetical meaning of the different sounds are vibrational. So
yeah,
Om actually does translate to how energetically that permeates out when we say that very expression or word. So that's the ancient Indian philosophy around the linguistics of language. So all languages yet are rooted to some higher language, and then over time, maybe morphed. But when we say certain words out loud, it like the word hate, even the way it sounds, doesn't sound right.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And you can feel it, right? If you really tune in, you can feel someone's hate if they're really spewing words. Like it can really be powerful. Right. And it's the opposite is true too. And this is where a lot of my work too, I do with people is in self-love, right? And this starts with ourselves, right? How we're talking to ourselves and how we're treating ourselves also has a ripple effect, right? And so when we can turn that love inward first, then it goes in, it comes in and then it goes out in a whole different way. But people that are the most vicious are usually the most vicious to themselves as well. Yeah. So that's where we all need to start internally with ourselves. I think
showing self-compassion for oneself. That's going back to that basic routine dialogue you and I had about starting our day. I think that is a form of self-love that I hope to see becomes a practice among all humans, where we all allow ourselves that space in that morning to do our energy work, our getting grounded and centered. Because then imagine each of us has done that work for ourselves, if it's 5 minutes or an hour, but you become centered.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if everybody just took that moment to do that versus hitting the ground and scurrying into crazy energy, right? Like the commute would change, that's for sure.
Well,
You
that's how I
know?
spent most of my early 20s and 30s. And I wish I had, reined in my habits and said, hey, it's okay. Everyone else might be rushing off, but it's important for you to get centered and grounded.
Yeah,
Or
it
even
really
standing
is.
meetings, like when I would be in corporate meetings and like people are talking over each other and whatever. Why not just say, okay, we're going to have a moment of silence?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
Stacy, this was really incredible. Any parting wisdoms for, say, solopreneurs, working women, mompreneurs, or in general, the public who enjoys listening to mindset, mindfulness, and energy work conversations? Something that you feel like that's helped you that others can take a quick win with.
I think the thing that has helped me the most is recognizing that I am either at cause or effect, and that I get to choose. So whatever is happening or not happening, right, in your business or in your life or in your job or whatever, how are you perceiving it? Are you perceiving that you're at the effect of it, or that you are at the cause of it? And meaning cause, meaning how you're perceiving it, right? And that you get to decide your energy. You get to decide how you show up and how you perceive something. And you hold the power, right? We hold the power to be, do, and have anything we want. It's just reining in that power and owning that power and not giving our power away to those energy leaks that happen with the poor boundaries and the lack and the lack of worthiness and all those things. Like, stand in your power, stand in your truth, own your energy, master your energy, and you can master your life. That's really the crux of it.
Master your energy, master your life. I love that. Thank you, Stacy. I look forward to having you back in the future.
Thank you. I look forward to coming back.
Have a good evening.
So, you too.
Thanks again for tuning in. Check out the links in the description and please subscribe, follow, and share. And continue to practice Omni Mindfulness.